This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, and you're listening to Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And you know, I have a veteran actor slash musician on the phone with me right now that I am all too honored to have on the phone with me. In fact, the year I was born, he was dueling banjos out in the middle of the woods. Yes, folks, I was born in 1972, and boy, he was part of a very famous scene. I'm talking about Ronny Cox, a gifted and talented himself. How you doing, Ronny?
I'm good. So actually, you were born the year after we filmed it. We filmed it in 71. It came out in 72.
Yeah, I was born in 1972. I always joke that 1972 was the year they came out with a lot of, I say mostly pornographic stuff, because that was the year Fritz the Cat came out.
Well, you know, a lot of people thought Deliverance was pornographic.
Well, I'm saying Fritz the Cat, Pink Flamingos, Beyond the Green Door, Deep Throat, and I think Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah.
And I think you could put group Deliverance in there with another film that year, Last House on the Left. I'm like, what was going on when I was born?
Yeah.
But of course, that was the year that The Godfather and Cabaret opposed each other at the Oscars as well. So.
Well, and we were nominated too.
You were nominated too, and of course, What's Up, Doc? One of the funniest comedies ever came out that year as well. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know if you know this or not, but since it was the year you were born that it came out, it was the year of Deliverance was my first time in a film, and as a matter of fact, my first time in front of a camera, and it was also Ned Beatty's first film.
I'm actually very aware of that. I know it wasn't John Voight, because he did Midnight Cowboy
before that, and Bert had actually been around for a few years. But to tell you the truth, that was the sort of the film that was his breakthrough as a film actor, because he'd been Bert was more of a in those days, if you were a TV actor, you were somehow lesser actor than, and Bert was sort of known as he had been on Gunsmoke, and he had been on a thing with Darren McGavin called Yancey Derringer.
Okay.
And he had a series called Dan August that he had done. But he was doing primarily, but he had done a couple of films. He did a film with Jim Brown, and Raquel Welch called 100 Rifles.
Okay.
A couple of years before that. But he was primarily, and so Deliverance was a big breakthrough for him as well.
You know, I'm a big Burt Reynolds fan. I can't say I liked all of his movies, but I'm going to tell you, love Smokey and the Bandit, love that laugh he has, and I was so honored when he was nominated for an Oscar for Boogie Nights.
And you know, he hated working on that film because he hated that director.
Paul Thomas Anderson, really?
Yeah. Oh, sometime look up Burt. I mean, I have no dog in this fight. I've just heard Bert tell stories about how much he hated doing that.
Oh man, because in the commentary track on the film, Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't relate anything negative about him.
Yeah. I believe maybe I'm telling stories out of school, so you might want to check this out. But it doesn't seem to be. It was one of Bert's favorites. But you know, several things happened to Bert that year, the year of Deliverance, that made him a star. Because up until Deliverance, see, that was the first time he went on the Tonight Show, and people realized he was funny.
Yep.
Because before that, he was always sort of known as an ersatz Marlon Brando, and you know, they kind of his sort of dark, brooding guy, and they didn't realize there was this pixie, funny man in there. And so, while we were shooting Deliverance, Bert went on the Tonight Show for the first time, and people realized he was funny. And then he did that centerfold. It was either for Playgirl or Vanity Fair or one of those things, and boy, that just put him through the roof.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear about Boogie Nights. I think that's a great movie. You know.
Here again, who knows?
Wow.
Who knows?
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic in it. Like it was a different role for him. You know.
Yeah. Who knows?
And they had a couple of great soundtrack albums to it too. So, but I mean, Smokey and the Band, I remember him in that. He was very funny in that, and you know,
I loved him in The End.
In the what?
The End.
I'm actually not familiar with that one.
You don't know The End?
No.
Do yourself a favor. Watch that.
What year did that come out?
Oh, I've slept since then.
Is it like 70s, 80s, 90s?
Probably 70s or 80s.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. I do like Burt Reynolds though. It's funny.
Him and Dom DeLuise.
Oh, I know they did those Cannonball Run movies.
Yeah.
For which I did not like the second one at all, but nonetheless. I don't know what else they did together. They did Smokey and the Bandit 2 together as well.
Look up The End.
I'll have to do that. It's funny. I just saw the movie Everybody Wants Some recently, which is Richard Linklater's latest movie, and it was his spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. And Dazed and Confused was set in the 70s. Everybody Wants Some is set in the 80s, and they get a character in it named Mick Reynolds. And I'm sure the character was modeled after a young Burt Reynolds, because Tyler Hoechlin, who played the role, has like a Burt Reynolds mustache in it. And I'm like, there's got to be a Burt Reynolds reference here, you know, because he was a big star at that point where the movie storyline is taking place.
You know, Burt became #1 box office in the world.
Yes, he did. Yep. Yeah. And Deliverance. There's several things about Deliverance that was interesting. You know, first of
all, it was shot in a way that no film was ever shot before or since.
Okay.
You know, we shot it in sequence.
Yeah, I've heard of films being shot in sequence before.
Very few.
Yeah, I know.
You can hardly name any, and the reason for that is generally films. There are very few films that go from point A to point B, because the budget is the bottom line always. And so if you have let's say we're doing there's a movie and there are 3 scenes in your studio. When we go to your studio, we're going to shoot all 3 of those scenes while we're there, because we're going to light them and do everything, and we're going to shoot all 3 scenes. We're not going to shoot and then go away someplace and then bring the crew back to shoot there again.
Yeah.
Deliverance starts at point A and goes to point B, so you're never in the same place twice.
Well,
you can do that. Also, in Deliverance, since we did all the canoeing ourselves, and there's no stuntmen, the easy rapids are at the beginning of the film, and the rapids get harder and harder and harder as we go. And so, therefore, we were all novice canoeists when we started, but we had a canoe instructor, and we're all pretty good natural athletes. So by the time we got to the really hard rapids, we'd been on the water for 6-7 weeks, 6 or 7 hours a day. And by that time, we were all pretty damn good canoeists.
I heard when the movie started that Ned Beatty was the only one that was in a canoe before the movie.
Exactly, he was. I don't know if you're aware. You know, I've written a book on the making of Deliverance.
Actually, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a book called Dueling Banjos: The Deliverance of Drew, and because of all the films I've done, and I've done like 150 movies and television shows through the years, there are more people want to talk about Deliverance, and there are sort of more myths and legends about that film than anything. And so finally, just to put all those things to rest, and also the film has meant so much to me because, see, I like I said, I'd never even been in front of a camera before that. And so everything that's happened in my career since then, and the Ned, too, in many ways, has happened as an almost direct result of that remarkable film. And so there are many, even though it's 45 years ago now that we shot that, almost, it's 40 to 44 years ago since we shot it. It's it's as fresh as I can still remember the assistant director's name. I can remember the lighting guys. I can remember the key grip's name. That film is sort of indelibly imprinted on my mind. And the funny thing too, I know a lot of people's memories sort of get fuzzy as they go through. If you want to talk to somebody about this film, because I've heard all the other guys' stories about this film too. If you want to know what really happened, talk to me. I got to tell you, those other guys' memories are not so good.
Wow, yeah. One of the things I found, I think that movie was released in July of that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the summer.
Yeah, of 72, because I was born on July 8th.
Uh-huh.
There you go. I think I was released just before the film.
See, I was, my birthday's July 23rd, so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're what, 39?
Then?
No, but what I found interesting in Deliverance is the role reversal that happens. Like Burt Reynolds starts off as this kind of very dominant, forceful character, and you almost expect him kind of to be the hero. But
that was the whole thing. He was the guy. He was the guy that knew how to do it. But in a way, if you look at it, the four characters are sort of the four everymen I mean, Bert is the macho survivalist guy that knows how everything and wants to take on the world. John Voight's character is the sort of more thoughtful introvert. Bobby's character is the buffoon. Ned Beatty's character is the jokester buffoon, and Drew is the sort of moral center of the piece.
And one of the things I found funny is that by the third act, Burt Reynolds is kind of the frail one,
Of course.
He's a frail one. And then the John Voight character, who couldn't even shoot a deer at the beginning of the film, he's put in a position where he has to face his fear. And then, I felt really bad that one character met a tragic end. I won't name who.
Well, it's me.
I would not have done that. I would have let y'all survive. I felt bad when that happened.
Well, but the problem is that is also the moral question that they all had to come up against. Because here's the thing about this, and I don't know if you've given it this much thought. What if Drew wasn't shot? What if John Voight's character went up there on the mountain and shot an innocent man? What if all he did was fall out of the canoe and hit his head? We have Burt Reynolds' character saying that Drew was shot, but there's no. As a matter of fact, when they find Drew, they look at his head really carefully, and they can't find any bullet. There's a little graze on his head, but there's no bullet wound on his head. So what if Drew? So the moral dilemma for us all? Because what if Drew was right all the time? What if what they should have done is, because if you recall, Drew was completely adamantly against taking and burying that man. He wanted to put the guy in the canoe, paddle down to Aintree, turn themselves in. It was justifiable homicide as far as he was concerned, and go deal with that. But there was partly some revenge involved in these other guys, and obviously Bobby didn't want that story getting around. But so when they buried that guy, if you recall, and if you don't recall, go back and look at the film. At first, Drew would hardly participate in the burial at all of that mountain man, and then all of a sudden he sort of snapped because denying every moral precept that he had in doing this. And so he sort of went crazy and worked harder than anybody doing that. So when they went back, now a lot of people think that Drew committed suicide. He's too strong a Catholic to ever do that. But he didn't put his life jacket on out of defiance. He just was out of it already. He had denied every moral principle that he had when they buried that guy. So now they're going down and all we have is Burt Reynolds' character's assertion that there's a guy up on the cliff up there shooting at it, and his assertion is that Drew was shot. And that's the only proof you have. Now, when John Voight goes up the mountain, when Ed goes up the mountain, all of a sudden that guy took the trouble to go home and put false teeth in. That guy went home and put a ring on his finger. Now, obviously, we used the same actor to do that, but there were a lot of things about that guy up on top that was different than the guy that was in the woods when they were raping Ned. So that becomes the moral dilemma for that film. And when we were shooting the film, I know John Borman, the director, came to me and very adamantly said, "Ronny, he can either be shot or not shot. You can decide, but make sure you make it ambiguous." And that's here it is 44 years later, and people come to me and people are still arguing about whether or not he was shot. I've talked to some people who claim that they heard the gunshot. They know he was shot. Whereas there are other guys, and I don't know if he was or not. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but if you do have an opinion, I don't know where you got it because it's totally ambiguous.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, that final word, from Burt Reynolds, where he says, I won't get it right here, but totally, because after the rapids, I remember nothing. Of course, you know what's really going on there between he and Voight.
Well, that's it, because they all of a sudden had found that canoe that was broken in half, and now a lot of the things in their story all of a sudden didn't hold water.
Well, I found interesting there was a young Ed O'Neill in that scene, pre-married.
No, there was not. That is a myth. Check that out.
Ed O'Neill from Married with Children?
Go check that out. That is not Ed O'Neill. There's a whole big thing about that I think if you check into that I would love it if Ed O'Neill was there, and I would love to have said I met him way back then. But
okay.
What role did he play?
Well, he was at the end of the film there, in I believe
the deputy sheriff.
I don't remember. It's been so long. I know he was really young, but
yeah, I have never seen his name in the credits.
Okay. Well, I don't have it up right in front of me right now, but I'll take your word for it there.
And here again, you're about the third or fourth person that said, "Oh, Ed O'Neill was in that film," and I think that is. As a matter of fact, I'm looking up right now.
I would go on the Internet Movie Database to look it up. Yeah, I know.
I am.
Because in Wikipedia you won't see it, because I know I looked on there to get some of your credits. But I could be wrong. Don't get me, but there is.
Okay, I'm going to IMDb, and I've got...
Looking up the stats. Because I do...
Deliverance, 1972. Trivia. Deliverance, 1972. Mistakes. spoilers and more. Belief that deputy at the hospital was played by Louis Crone is not Ed O'Neill.
Okay. Well, my bad. My bad.
Yeah. So that's another one of those myths and legends. That if I see one more person that says that they were somebody's stunt, that they were Bert's stunt double or John Boy's stunt double, there are no stunt doubles. We did all the canoeing ourselves. If I see one more person that says that they're the ones that played the dueling banjos, they're wrong. I mean, the dueling banjos was played by Eric Weisberg and Steve Mandel. They're the ones that recorded it. Billy Redden and I were the two actors that did it, but neither one of us played, although I was hired because I play the guitar, neither one of us played a note on the soundtrack. But the music was pre-recorded, and we matched the playback. And as a matter of fact, that's not even Billy's left hand. He didn't even know enough about the banjo to make it look like he could play. So there's another little kid that has a wardrobe shirt on. Billy has his left arm back behind his back as tight as he can get it when he's sitting on the porch swing. And this other little kid is with his wardrobe shirt on, is up there doing sort of the left-hand work. And they don't even have real strings on the banjo. They're sort of rubberized strings, so he wouldn't hurt his fingers. So it's total movie magic in terms of who's playing it and who's not. Now, if there's someone that comes close to playing it, Steve Mandel, who plays the guitar on that piece, because John Borman wanted to be able to cut to somebody's fingers playing the right notes. So Steve Mandel taught it to me note for note. So I matched the playback note for note, but that's not me playing it. So did I play it? Yes. Is that me on the soundtrack? No. Did that cost me a whole lot of money? Probably.
Yeah, that right there toward the beginning when the dueling banjos takes place, that is like everybody's kind of ominous and creepy, and even that kid is kind of a creepy looking kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Billy Redden. He still works at Walmart in Clayton, Georgia.
Yeah, and you got that one spot there where he actually smiles when you two are going at it with with the instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was he like?
Wonderful kid, but it's been 44 years ago. I saw him on the 40th anniversary. They hired me and my band to go back down to Clayton, Georgia, and we did a 40th anniversary show there. And Billy came to the show, and so he and I've seen him a time or two since then. Wonderful young man, doesn't play the banjo at all, but. And he's in another film too. Did you ever see Big Fish?
The Tim Burton film?
Of course.
Yes, I've seen that.
Okay. Remember when they go to that mythical town? There's a guy sitting on the porch there with a banjo. That is Billy Redden, and Tim Burton wrote that scene in. He loved Deliverance so much that he went down there and found Billy Redden and wrote that scene in so he could put him on that porch.
Oh wow, that is cool. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Big Fish, but that's an interesting little trivia. Yeah, that was a great scene in the movie where you two were really amping it up, and you got faster and faster and faster, and it kind of tells me where you're in music now. Like, did that come into play when you were casted for that role?
Well, yes. I talked to John Borman afterwards. It was instrumental, pun intended, in my getting, because I looked at home with the guitar in my hand. I could play. And then, if you recall, that first night when they're camping out after the first, the night before the rape scene, and the next morning, my character is sitting around and I'm singing an old folk song, Moonshiner's Lament. So that's me playing that. So I did play the guitar and sing in Deliverance. I'm the only one that did. But the dueling banjos, that's Eric Weisberg and Steve Mandel.
Okay. Well, I gotta ask, about some of the actors in the film. I know you spoke briefly, but what was it like? Your impressions upon working with
No,
Burt Reynolds and John Voight, and
they were great.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
You're fine, guys. Just close the door. I've got my grandchildren here.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, well, you got to realize, for me and Ned, I mean, this was like magic time, and in many ways, that film was so different than any film that's been made before or since, because that river was so pristine that a lot of times they had to use four-wheel drives or caterpillars to get us down to the river, and then you literally had to make it to point B to get out of the river. There was no place in between. So you had to get in there, and you're down there doing this canoeing with a really, really, really skeleton crew going down the river. So it was really easy to forget that you were actually making a movie. Sometimes it was like your Boy Scouts.
yeah. That rape scene was awfully, awfully difficult to watch.
Well, and if you go back and look at the way it's shot, because it's like a ballet dance, and because John Borman also shot that film in a way, it was not shot the way most films. Go back and look. He has a camera that's here, and then he moves actors in and out and in and out and around, into the camera angles. Rather than having one static shot and cut here, cut here, cut here, cut here. That's not how it's shot. It's shot in a completely different way. So that's like a really, really intricate ballet.
What was Neb Beatty's reaction to having to do that? I mean, it had to be difficult.
That's another one of the biggest myths in the world. Ned handled that in the most amazing. I mean, first of all, Ned and I had done 25 plays together before we did that. We'd been in plays at Arena Stage in Washington. He's an actor. Everybody's all. He's put up with more abuse from people trying to think that somehow. You're an actor. You go and you do your job. So he and Bill McKinney, I mean, those guys were the best pros. That's some of the finest acting I've ever seen. But there's no shame or any sort of chagrin of having done that scene. They played an incredible scene.
Yeah, but Bill McKinney, fine playing a villain. He played a villain again in Cannonball opposite David Carradine as well. He was
in a lot of the Clint Eastwood movies.
Yeah, he's very, very effective. And
we lost Bill a 3 years ago.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yep.
But and John Voight, of course, went down the river again when he did Anaconda, playing a villain. Did you see him in Anaconda?
I did not.
He played the villain in that. And
well, he's a wonderful actor.
He is a wonderful actor, but I'll tell you, he had some scene-stealing moments in Anaconda. Mm-hmm. And of course, Neb Beatty. I loved him in stuff like All the President's Men. He had just one scene, but he was great in it. But one thing I remember him for was being in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, where he played Dean Martin, the school dean, Martin.
You left out one of his most wonderful, and here again, it was One Day's Work. Network.
Oh, Network, yes. Oh, man, how could I forget that?
Of course. I mean, Ned Beatty, for my money, is one of America's greatest actors.
I think he's terrific.
Yeah, and Ned has been my closest friend since 1963. So we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I know in Back to School, like he was playing opposite Rodney Dangerfield, and that's not easy to play opposite. But man, some of the facial expressions he made and his reactions and double takes, he was really good at doing comedy.
Yeah. Did you ever see Hear My Song?
Have not, no.
Oh, do yourself a favor. Wonderful Irish. He plays an Irish tenor. Joseph Locke is the character's name. It is an absolutely fantastic film, and Ned is wonderful in it.
Yeah, I think Ned, very underrated actor, and he can play pretty much anything.
Yeah, I just don't agree with underrated. I think he's rated at the top by just about everybody. I don't know of anybody that underrates him. If you ask who America's greatest character actors are, I think Ned Beatty's right at the top of that list.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think
so I just don't agree that he's underrated.
Well, you know what I mean. Like that, they give a lot of these lead parts to your Brad Pitts and your Tom Cruises and stuff like that.
Those are different. Those are different roles. Those are roles that require something else. They don't. Not a lot of times they don't require nearly as much acting as the other roles do. Those are Brad Pitt is hired a lot of. I mean, and he's a wonderful actor. Don't get me wrong. But he's hired for a certain amount of good looks and whatever. He's not hired for necessarily always for his acting chops.
That's true.
And Ned Beatty is always cast for his acting chops.
Yeah, and I can't recall ever seeing Ned Beatty do a bad performance.
Nor me.
Nope.
I have a couple that I didn't like the film so much. I didn't like the Superman where he and Gene Hackman were Lex Luthor and his trusty sidekick. I wasn't knocked out by that film, but Ned is for my money America's greatest character actor.
There we go. Yes, and terrific actor. But it's interesting, you did the dueling banjo, and you got this. Before we talk about any more of your movies, I got to talk about your music, because I know that's what Mike Gormley brought to my attention. How did you come to meet Mike?
Oh, Mike and we've known each other for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years. And, I've started, I made a life decision several years ago. I turned down about 90% of the acting jobs I'm offered these days because I love playing music. And don't get me wrong, I love acting. I just don't love acting as much as I love music, and I can tell you why. With acting, no matter whether it's movies, television, plays, you name it, there is and must be that imaginary fourth wall between you and the audience. And being a musician, I'm also a storyteller. And there's a possibility in my shows of a profound one-on-one sharing that can take place. And that's an opiate that is undeniable. Now, the difference in money, if you can imagine me sitting here holding my arms as far apart as I can, that's the money I make in movies. And now imagine me holding my fingers an inch apart. That's the money I make playing music. But I've been lucky. I've had a wonderful career. I'm not rich, but I have enough money, so the thing that gives me the most pleasure is playing music, and that's what I do now.
Well, I come to meet Mike because I interviewed one of his clients, Lisa Langlois, last June of 2015, and I come to know Mike through her, and I have Mike on here in May, and Mike's been not only great, but I mean he sent a lot of his clients my way. I mean since Lisa, you're my third, actually fourth he sent my way.
Well, he's a good guy.
And one of the things I like about him, because I'm a volunteer here, and it's after 9 o'clock here, where you are, it's after 5. And I love the fact that when he gets me an interview, he looks after the fact that I have a day job, and he helps me get interviews that work around my day job, and so I can come in and do these in the evening, and it works out for you as well as for me. And I appreciate Mike Gormley for doing that.
That's great. He's a great guy.
He is a great guy, and boy, he sent me some of your music. I was in here Sunday, and I was on YouTube, and I was listening to some of your music, and one song that caught my attention. It was one Mike sent to me, but I actually watched it on YouTube because you told an interesting little. I love the story you told about this song. It was called Catherine.
Catherine?
Catherine. That is a beautiful song, and I love the story you have behind it.
That's the story of my granddaughter.
Yeah. Very, very small when she was born, huh?
Yes, 1 pound, 10 ounces.
Yeah. How old's Catherine now? Because I know in the video you said she was 8 years old. I don't know how old the video was now. But...
Yeah, she's 15 now.
Wow, I didn't realize the video was that old. You were doing kind of a film.
Well, that's another thing. The story works better if she's younger.
Oh, okay.
you know, also, I don't know if Mike told you, the name of my show is Song, Stories, and Out and Out Lies. So here's the thing. You know yourself.
Okay.
Real, true, honest stories, sometimes the punchline doesn't come in the right place. Okay. And sometimes they don't end satisfactorily. So if you can't improve on a story, why tell the damn thing anyway?
Well,
so I am never bound by the facts or by reality in my stories.
Well, you know what? I really like that story, and you know, I'm glad you have a great relationship with your grandchildren.
Yeah, I just took Catherine to Ireland with me. She just turned 15 this year, so I go to Ireland every year. I take a group of 22 fans to Ireland on a fabulous musical tour of Ireland. So since she just turned 15, I took Catherine with me this year, and it was fabulous.
Well, Mike asked me, he told me to ask you something. And he said it would make for a good interview. So he said, ask the story behind the night John Huston died. Now I'm curious.
Well, here's the thing about the night John Huston died. In many ways, I can point to the very day that I knew that I wanted to become an actor. I grew up in New Mexico. I was a kid. I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I saw a film called the Treasure of Sierra Madre. That was directed by John Huston, obviously.
Yep.
And I knew from that day forward that I wanted to be an actor. Now, you'd think, since I wanted to become an actor, that I'd be a fan of Humphrey Bogart or Tim Holt or Walter Huston, the actors in the film, but I didn't. I became a fan of John Huston. And so I knew from that moment on that I wanted to be an actor, and I always told people I wanted to be and then late in John's life, I actually got a chance to get to know and become friends with John, and I got to play poker with John, and the last year of his life, he was dying of emphysema, and see, John thought that you could find out more about a man by playing poker with him than any other way. So that last year of his life, he would invite 5 or 6 of us over to his house in an afternoon, and we would go over and then play poker for a couple of hours, have the most wonderful conversation about everything in the world. And he was the most alive and vital man, and even though he was dying, just an incredible man. And we would play for a couple of hours. And during that year, he and I got to become really close friends. And so then when he died, the night he died was there was really kind of a dramatic moment, so I felt like I wanted to write a song about that. See, John also loved, in addition to poker, he loved songs of the Mexican Revolution. And so the night he was dying, he was in the bedroom with Maricela, and the rest of us were out in the living room. It was supposed to be an Irish wake that we were having, but rather than us playing Irish music, we were all playing Mexican songs. And I don't know if it was the songs or what, but at some point, John turned to Maricela and said, "Do we have enough rifles?" And she said, "Yes, John, we have enough rifles." And so he drifted off, and a few minutes later he opened his eyes again and he said, "Yes, but do we have enough bullets?" And she said, "Yes, John, we have plenty of bullets." So then he took her hand and held it up, and he said, "Then give them hell." And those were his last words. And so then when I was writing the song, I was going to put a bit of a Mexican revolutionary song at the beginning to give a flavor of the song. But then I remembered an old Mexican folk song that I'd known for 50 years called El Burro. And it was about a town in Mexico that was so poor that they only had one burro for the entire town. He did the work for the entire town. And so when the burro died, they gave the burro a funeral. And I just thought John would love being associated with a funeral song for a jackass. So then I wrote The Night John Huston Died.
Wow. That is his story. And John Huston was definitely a great filmmaker, you know, everything way back to The Maltese Falcon, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen them all.
Yeah, we have a thing called the Under the Stars Classic Film Series that goes on here in the summer ever since 2003. You know, they have its outside screen and it's free of charge. People just bring a blanket, come down, they watch films outside, and they opened this year with Maltese Falcon.
Well, I like I said, I love them all, but if you really want, maybe one of my favorite films in the world is The Man Who Would Be King.
Okay.
Do you know that one?
I've heard of it.
Sean Connery and Michael Caine.
Oh.
Fabulous
Okay.
film. And Christopher Plummer.
Okay. Yeah, Christopher Plummer was in a great movie this year called Remember.
Do yourself a favor and see The Man Who Would Be King.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. I checked out some of your songs on Sunday when I was up here, and I listened to Sanctuary. That was a very good song. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, everybody thinks that's my song. It's not. It was written by a guy named Larry Bastian.
Okay.
And Larry Bastian is a wonderful songwriter, but it's a song that's written from a mayor's point of view, because I don't know if you know this or not, but a little foal born in the wild only has 6 minutes to get up and get moving. You generally think of the wildebeest in Africa having to worry about the lions, but that's true of a little foal that's born out in the wild in Nevada. So imagine what it's like to be a mare that's just given birth to a little wobbly-legged guy, and then there's predators all around. It's cold and snowy, and she's got to get him to a safe place. And so that's where the term sanctuary comes from.
Oh. Yeah, another song I listened to, I'm kind of amused by this. You had a song called Trumped. Now, that's not a reference to a certain political figure, is it?
Of course it is.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of, even some from some of my interviewees, you know, if he gets in, they're going to come here. Something tells me Canada's going to get extra populated.
He ain't going to get in.
You don't think so?
No, he's gonna be. This may well be the end of the Republican Party.
You know what? I've heard that from somebody else too.
The right wing in this country has sort of preached their racism and hatred for all these years, but they've always done it in kind of dog whistles. of just saying stuff that their base knew what they were talking about, but they were kept trying to feign innocence of that they weren't really being racists or whatever. And now Donald Trump is actually saying those things out loud, and so yes, he appeals to about 20%. We've about 20 or 25% of us are right-wing bigots and racists, and there's every possibility that he's going to lose in a landslide. Now, this is supposed to be a good year for Republicans because as Americans, we generally don't like to have the same party in for more than 8 years at a time. But I predict Hillary's going to crush him in the election.
Yeah, I don't follow it too closely, but
unfortunately I'm a political junkie, and so I live and breathe this stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I grew up in a Christian household, and I find it's very difficult, some of the hate that's coming out there,
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, see, we're supposed to be a country that has religious freedom.
Yep.
And religious freedom is like we've got all these right-wingers here saying no Sharia law. And we shouldn't have Sharia law, but they want Sharia law. They just want it to be their Sharia.
Yeah.
Our Constitution calls for absolute separation of church and state.
Yep.
And that's what it should be.
I agree. But
everybody should be free to practice their own religion, but your religion stops at my nose.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a way people can live their faith out, but you can't force your beliefs on other people.
Exactly not.
Exactly, and I've had problems with people even within my own faith dealing with this,
Believe me, not only within your own family. I'm having problems with my own family. With brothers and sisters and people like that. I mean, there's such a political divide in this country right now that it's worse than the racial divide ever was. Now, if you tell someone you're a Republican and another person is a Democrat, they sort of hate them on sight.
Wow.
It's because we've had, for the last 15 or 20 years, we've had Fox News up here, which is just it's a right-wing propaganda machine, and they don't tell the truth. They just make up lies, but so the people who listen to Fox News, they live in an echo chamber, and so they literally believe all this crap that's been told to them. So someone said this, but it really, and it sounds so trite, but it really is true. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Yep.
But you're not entitled to your own facts. Facts are facts. So yeah, you can have your opinion, but if this happened, it's like saying to me, Ed O'Neill played in Deliverance. The fact is, you might want to believe it, but the fact is he didn't.
I guess I know that now, but it's been so long.
That's what it really comes down to. When they say that this happened or that happened, and I don't know if you to this day. Something like 65% of Trump's supporters believe that Barack Obama is a Muslim and was not born in this country. Still.
They're still going on about that.
And that's because they have a pathological need to make him, since he's a black man that's succeeding, they have a pathological need to make him the other. that he had to have stolen it somehow to have gotten elected, so that he couldn't have gotten elected on his own because he's a black man. So now I didn't mean to get political on you, but that's where we've gone.
No, it's okay. No, that was one of the songs I listened to, and I'm going to tell you, one of the people I interviewed on here not too long ago, somebody through Mike Gormley, was Daryl Purpose, and
I love Daryl.
Oh, Daryl's a great guy. He told some great stories on here too, and I noticed you both play very similar style music.
Yep, we do.
Yeah, did you two ever tour together?
No, never have. We both like each other, but we've never toured together.
Because I think you two would make a great double act. No, I think your music is great, and I think it's wonderful you have this passion. I find right now a lot of actors are doing that. Like Juliette Lewis right now is into producing rock music, you know, and she's kind of got more passion for that now than doing acting.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's some of us, and frankly, there's some of us that can do it, and some of us that can't. But that's a sort of a thing you have to sort of live down. Oh, another actor that thinks he can play music, because there are a lot of actors that think just because they've been in some movies that they can put a guitar around their neck. But I've been playing music since I was 13. So I was cutting records when I was in high school, and I put myself through college with a rock and roll band, and started playing folk music when I was struggling as an actor, and got Deliverance because I could play. And my second big film was a film called Bound for Glory, which is the Woody Guthrie film, and where I played music. So early in my career, everybody knew that I was this musician that also acted. But it's just that I've had such success in the last 25 or 30 years playing Men of Authority, RoboCop, Total Recall, Beverly Hills Cop, Murder 1600. A lot of Onion Field, a lot of cops and presidents and corporate guys and people like that. So that now when people see me with a guitar around my neck, they kind of messes with their mind a little bit.
Well, I got two more questions about music before we move back to your films. One, who are your musical influences growing up?
I grew up hearing Texas swing a lot. Bob Wilson, Texas Playboys, Woody Guthrie when I was a kid. Kind of what the old-timey country music.
Okay.
Since I grew up in New Mexico, my dad, I started calling square dances when I was 10 years old. My dad and mom took me to square dances when I was 10, and so then I started playing rock and roll. Then in the late 50s, where I grew up, most people don't realize this, but in the late 50s and early 60s, I grew up in a little town called Portales, New Mexico, but 19 miles north of there was Clovis, New Mexico. And Clovis, New Mexico in the late 50s and early 60s was a hotbed of music. I was actually around when Buddy Holly cut Peggy Sue.
Okay.
I was at that studio. I don't know if you remember Sugar Shack and.
Oh yeah, I'm very aware of them. Yep.
Okay, that's where I was cutting records. The Jimmy Bowen and Buddy Knox had a song called "Party Doll," and I'm sticking with you. Come along and be my party doll. Come along, and there was a country artist named Charlie Phillips that had a song called "Sugar Time." Sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, sugar at supper time.
Okay, yeah, I know that.
So I was cutting records when I was in high school, and music has been sort of an integral part of my life for as long as I can remember.
What other do you play? Just guitar? Or are there other instruments you play as well?
Only guitar, and I play a really rudimentary sort of 3-finger picking style. I'm not a lead guitar player at all. I don't pick out. I do what I do. I kind of play a percussive style, and I do what I do okay, but it is very limited what I do.
I just got thinking here just on the spot that going back to Burt Reynolds, when he did Smokey and the Bandit, he worked with Jerry Reed. I love Jerry Reed. He was a great guitar player. Did you know him?
I did indeed. As a matter of fact, when they were originally going to do that, Burt was thinking about me doing that role.
Okay.
But at that time I was involved in when they were casting it, and Burt wanted me to think about doing that. I was starring in a television series called Apple's Way.
Okay.
And I couldn't get out of it. So Jerry Reed is a great, I mean, not just good, he is a great guitar player. And I don't know if you know this or not. You know who his father-in-law is?
Oh, no, I don't.
Chet Atkins.
Oh, I know that name.
Chet Atkins is considered the greatest country guitar player of all time.
Okay.
So just look up Chet Atkins.
I know that name, yes.
Yeah. And Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed, those are about as good a guitar players as the only other guitar player that's sort of in that class, for my money, is Tommy Emmanuel from Australia.
Okay. Well, as I tell you, I think Jerry Reed is not only a great guitar player, but so funny. I was listening to a song of his today called Another Puff, and I just laughed listening to that song about smoking, you know?
Yeah, he's got another great song. She got the gold mine, I got the shaft.
Oh, that's great, yeah. And When You're Hot, and Amos Moses. And
Yep. No, I love Jerry's stuff.
Jerry was great. I felt bad when he passed away. I remember the news when he had passed. And,
well, he was a good actor too.
Yes,
he did several good little films.
Yeah, to me, I'm always going to remember him as the Snowman. And I'm going to tell you, Jeff Foxworthy, the comedian, once told a joke. He said, every time you tell a story with your friend, there's always trouble involved. And he said, if you're in jail, your best friend will come and bail you out, which is not true, because if you're in jail, your best friend ought to be in there with you. And I'm sitting here thinking, that sounds like Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed and Smokey and the Bandit. When he goes to the house and the wife is there with her curlers on, and of course Jerry got to go up wherever to pick up a load of manure, but no, he's going to take him to haul the beer. Of course, Jerry don't put up much of a fight on that. He just goes. So I love Jerry Reed. I thought he was a very funny guy and very talented.
Yep.
Well, I got to ask you about some of your films. We talked about Deliverance, and you mentioned Bound for Glory. Okay, you did a film called The Car.
I did.
Tell us about that.
Well, I did that with James Brolin.
Yeah, this was pre-Amityville Horror for him.
It was pre-Christine.
Yes, that's right. Pre-Christine.
Yeah, and we shot it in St. George, Utah, and we had a really good time on that film. Elliot Silverstein directed it. He directed Cat Ballou, among other things.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a genre film. I've been lucky. I've gotten to be in some really interesting films.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned The Onion Field. You worked a lot with director Harold Becker.
Well, I've done 3 films with Harold. I did Onion Field. I did Taps with him, and I also did Vision Quest with him.
Yeah. Yeah, Taps was one of those films that introduced a lot of actors like Tom Cruise and Sean Penn.
That was his first film, and that was also Sean Penn's first film.
Yeah, Sean Penn did that just before he did Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Exactly. Everybody thinks that Fast Times was his first, but it wasn't. Taps was before that.
Yeah, Taps opened for Cruise and for Penn both, and
Yep.
yeah, what was your?
While we were shooting it was when Timothy Hutton won the Academy Award for Ordinary People.
That's right. Yep, that was 1980.
And George C. Scott, of course, was terrific in it.
Yeah, yeah. Taps.
We shot that in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, which is Valley Forge Military Academy.
Okay. Yeah, and then you were in a special effects horror film, The Beast Within.
Beast Within, yeah. Philippe Mora, Australian director, directed that. And I did that with Paul Clemens, Paul Day Clemens. He was Eleanor Parker. He is Eleanor Parker's son.
Yeah. Yeah, Beast Within.
Stevie Besh was in that, too.
Yeah.
And R.G. Armstrong and L.Q. Jones and Don Gordon. There's some interesting character actors in that film. We shot that in Mississippi.
And some really good gore effects as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember that image of the dog with the lemon in its mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a pretty different role for you.
Well, I just played the father. I mean, he was just sort of the main guy that was whose son was going through all this stuff.
Yeah. So, what was it? Well, it's probably not your first special effects film, but I got to ask, when you're in a film like, The Car or even like Beast Within, what's it like acting alongside the effects like that? Do you get to see them work on stuff like that, or?
Oh, those were nothing compared to some of the effects. You forget I was in RoboCop and Total Recall.
Yeah, I know they're coming up on my list, but
yeah, I mean, now you're talking about when you're dealing with Paul Verhoeven. But acting is acting. A lot of times the special effects stuff sort of just gets in the way because it's what takes you. Plus, I did 9 seasons on Stargate, and I took over for 2 of the highest rated episodes of Star Trek, The Next Generation. I took over as captain of the ship for 2 episodes. So I've been around that kind of special effects makeup stuff a lot.
You mentioned Stargate. Vanessa Angel was in that, right?
Who?
Vanessa Angel? I believe she. I'm not sure. I think she said she was in the. She was my last interview of 2015. I think she said something about being in that show, but.
Well, I was only in 2 episodes. I took over as captain of the ship, so she may well have been. I don't remember.
And of course, after Beast Within, I mean, you were in one of the biggest hits of 1984, Beverly Hills Cop, and you worked with Eddie Murphy in at least a couple of films. So imagine that, and
3 films. Imagine that, and Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Oh yes.
I wasn't in Beverly Hills Cop 3 because I read the script.
Yeah, I think everybody should have read the script.
I read that. They offered it to me, and I said, no thanks. Well, first of all, I hate sequels. I did Beverly Hills Cop 2 against my better judgment because, in a way, Bogomil getting shot was the reason for Eddie's character coming back. So I agreed to do that, but I don't like sequels. I hate the remake of RoboCop. I hate the remake of Total Recall.
You know what? I want to say something about that Total Recall remake, something that really ticked me off with it. And I'm going to tell you, something going off there.
Yeah, it's a call I've got to take. So I need to ring off.
You want me to just pause this and have you come back?
Yeah, pause. Call me back.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, now we're back and going. No, I was going to say, what was it like working with Eddie Murphy?
Oh, Eddie's great. I've done Beverly Hills Cop 1, Cop 2, and then I did a show called Imagine That, and I really like working with Eddie, and we just have a good time together, and he's a very, very, very funny man.
He does some great impressions, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Some of the funniest impressions. And, of course, they're supposed to be making a Beverly Hills Cop 4. Did you hear about that?
Oh, yeah, they've been talking that. I'm not interested.
No, and you worked with Judge Reinhold in that, too. What were your memories of him?
The Judge is a good guy. Judge and John Ashton, yeah, we had a good time.
Okay. And, of course, you mentioned Vision Quest with, of course, Linda Fiorentino in that.
That was her first film.
Yeah, she did After Hours that year, too. I mean, that was a good year for her.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but there was a young singer that came in and did it. It was in one bar scene, and it was Madonna.
Madonna. Yeah, that I think was 1985. That was the year Madonna did Desperately Seeking Susan. Yeah. And, of course, what I was going to say before about Total Recall that I lost my train of thought on is with Colin Farrell, I noticed when he gets into a fight with, I forget Kate Beckinsale, he's blocking her shots, and she's just landing every blow. It's like I get it. You don't want to hit a woman, but I mean, she's assaulting him, and he's just taking it. And I noticed that when she grapples with Jessica Biel, she takes every punch in the face that Jessica throws at her. And I said to a friend of mine, I said, I want to look at the original Total Recall because I want to see if Arnold Schwarzenegger takes as much abuse from Sharon Stone, and he takes abuse from her, but he goes to get that comic scene where he punches her out. And again, I'm not for abuse of women, but there was a little bit of a justification there, and I hated the fact that they kind of they played that. I hate to use the word feministic view, but that's something that bothered me in the remake of Total Recall.
Well, I can't speak to that because I hated the film so much I walked out. So I never saw that scene.
What was it like?
Believe me, the Total Recall and RoboCop, the remakes, as far as I'm concerned, suck.
I agree. What was it like working with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Arnold's good. He teases people unmercifully, but I will say this about Arnold: he gives us good because he can take it too. Because so he and we shot that film in Mexico City, Churubusco Studios, and we had a great time down there.
And of course, RoboCop. I love Nancy Allen. What was she like?
I had 0 scenes with Nancy. I mean, I met her a time or two, but I never got to act with her at all.
Yeah, I was always a fan of hers. RoboCop, of course, a pivotal film. Paul Verhoeven, you like working with him?
I do.
Yeah.
Really volatile man, but I loved working. I did RoboCop and Total Recall with him.
He's got a good sense of humor because he accepted the Razzie for Showgirls.
Well, and he most people don't realize it. Paul has a PhD in chemistry.
Okay. And a couple other films on there. Loose Cannons. You had Gene Hackman and you had Dan Aykroyd.
And Dom DeLuise.
Dom DeLuise. Yeah, what was your experience like on that film?
We had a good time. We shot that in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Wasn't a really great film, but I took it because all of my scenes were with Gene Hackman, and Gene Hackman is one of my favorite actors in the world.
Love The French Connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was brilliant in that. 2-time Oscar winner and deserves it. And, of course, you had Some Kind of Hero. You worked with Richard Pryor?
Yeah, Richard and I, that was the first film he did after he burned himself up, and he and I became real close friends on that. Richard and I became really, really close friends on that film.
Yeah, it's sad what happened with him, later in life with muscular sclerosis. But yeah, and you worked with Sharon Stone in Scissors.
Scissors and Total Recall, too.
Total Recall as well. I almost forgot about that. And yeah, I mentioned her just earlier. What was she like?
She's terrific. Yeah, we had a good time. It was a little low-budget film, but we had a really good time.
Well, Ronny, I'm hoping I didn't mess anything up on the interview recording here, but
yeah, me too.
I really did.
But I'm sure you've got enough stuff there.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's recorded here, somewhere, So that's never happened during one of my interviews before. If something happens that messed up, could you be generous enough to come back on?
Sure.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Yeah, I know. I pressed stop. I should have pressed pause, but I'm sure it's probably still there. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just give me a call if things are going sideways.
Yeah, because I'd hate to think we did over an hour and then we lost it, but I'm pretty sure it's still on there.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, two things. One, where could I get an autograph picture?
Just write to Ronny at RonnyCox.com.
Okay.
And send it along. Send an address for me here.
Okay. And last thing, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Be happy to.
Okay. Just say your name, and you're listening to Python's Paradise with Greg Gilbert.
Greg what?
Greg Gilbert.
Gilbert?
Yep.
Yep. Hi, this is Ronny Cox, and you're listening to Python's... What is it?
Python's Paradise.
Paradise. Okay. Hi, this is Ronny Cox, and you're listening to Python's Paradise with Greg Gilbert.
Yes. You haven't been up the Fredericton way, huh?
No, I haven't.
You'll have to get up here sometime.
Yeah, have them book me up there.
I'll have to see what I can do. I don't know how many strings I can pull on that, but...
Okay. Well, it's been fun talking to you, Greg.
Yes, God bless you, and thank you for the honor of having me interview you.
Great.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep.